The Giggle. The Giggle, the Giggle, the Giggle, the Giggle. It's the triumphant return of the celestial toy maker, and it seems to be most people's favorite of the 4 specials. And to that I say, welcome to the hot take portion of this video, because I think The Giggle is a little overrated. I can't deny it has some extremely fun moments, and casting Neil Patrick Harris as the toy maker, making him do over-exaggerated accents and giving him a dance sequence was a stroke of genius. But again, I think the script comes up a bit lacking. The plot of the episode is essentially just that the toy maker wants to mess with the Doctor, and he does that by messing with humanity, of course, by making them all go insane.
Everyone started thinking they're right, all the time. If you try to argue, they go mad.
But actually, the insanity was inside us all along.
But it's not only the giggle. Don't go thinking you've got an excuse. All the anger out there on the street, the lies, the righteousness, that's human, that's you.
The script is stuffed with ideas from start to finish. What if everybody on Earth thought they were right all the time? What if the first ever TV broadcast was actually an encoded message planted by the toy maker? What if the toy maker could create pocket realms within our world that don't abide by the laws of physics? What if Mel from Trial of a Time Lord came back to Earth and got a job at UNIT? What if the Doctor could duplicate himself into 2 doctors, for some reason, and then duplicate the TARDIS as well? What if... dance sequence. And what if there was a robot sidekick at UNIT now?
An invention of the Flinks.
Hello, the Flinks.
This is all one episode? I've always thought the best Doctor Who episodes are the ones that really hone in on one idea and stick with it. Like Blink, Heaven Sent, Vincent and the Doctor, Midnight. All episodes that explore exactly one idea to its maximum potential. And the results speak for themselves. The unfortunate result of cramming this many ideas into a single episode is that there simply isn't enough time to give everything a satisfactory explanation. Like, how is Mel here? The last time we saw her was in a completely different part of the universe in the year 2 million, so I guess she must have time traveled to get here.
So I got a lift off a Zingo and came back to Earth.
Oh, she caught a Zingo. Gotcha.
It's the thing you get a lift off.
How old would she even be by now, canonically anyways? Like 100? She says that she traveled with Sabalon Glitz until he died of old age at 101.
He lived till he was 101. Whoa. Died falling over a whiskey bottle.
If they spent their entire lives together and he died at 101 at some point in her past, how is she still this young? Russell, my guy, you gotta keep track of characters' ages because it's just getting ridiculous at this point. I would have loved to see an episode that just dealt with Mel's return as a companion. Like, remember School Reunion in Season 2? That episode saw Sarah Jane Smith's return to Doctor Who, and the entire episode was focused around just that. This provided us with all kinds of great moments, like seeing what Sarah Jane had done with her life in the decades since leaving the Doctor.
Well, no harm in a little investigation while I'm here.
No, good for you.
Her reaction to seeing the TARDIS for the first time in decades.
Hello, Sarah Jane.
It's you. You've regenerated.
Half a dozen times since we last met.
How she had readjusted to life on Earth.
You know what the most difficult thing was? Coping with what happens next, with what doesn't happen next. You took me to the furthest reaches of the galaxy. You showed me supernovas. And then you just dropped me back on Earth. How could anything compare to that?
And how she had changed as a person since we'd last seen her. Conversely, Mel's inclusion in this episode ends up feeling like little more than window dressing. Yeah, you know, Mel, she's here. There she is in the background. She's part of Donna's family, I guess, now.
Oh, your family, darling. Sit down. Hey.
I mean, they're both redheads, so they're probably related. To give this episode the credit it deserves, though, it does fix an issue that was on display in the School Reunion, namely the fact that the writers felt it necessary to give Rose and Sarah Jane a stupid cat fight, just further pushing the sexist stereotype that anytime 2 women meet, they will immediately fight over a man.
Who's she?
Rose, Sarah Jane. Sarah Jane, Rose.
Your assistants are getting younger.
I'm not his assistant. Rats in school.
They dissect them. Or maybe you haven't reached that bit yet.
They haven't done that for years. Where are you from? The Dark Ages?
Anyway.
I saw things you wouldn't believe.
Try me.
Mummies.
I've met ghosts.
Robots. Lots of robots.
Slivine in Downing Street.
Daleks.
Met the Emperor.
He didn't mention me once.
Oh, mate. The missus and the ex. Welcome to every man's worst nightmare.
Seeing Donna and Mel get along is nice.
I wasn't the first redhead.
That was me.
They also made Melanie more of an actual character than she was in the 80s, so props to them for that.
And you can sort of put things a bit right, maybe, because when I was in it in the 80s, I was very sort of Fay Ray going, monsters! Didn't really have anything. And I was a computer programmer, which was sort of quite ahead of its time as such. Never went anywhere near anything remotely like a computer. So now I have a desk, and I am in that office, being what I need to be.
I'm not against the idea of an episode that has a lot going on. In fact, I'm all for it, but it's a high-risk, high-reward strategy. If you want to try writing an episode like that, it's vital that no matter how many ideas are shoved into the plot, each one of them gets the opportunity to be fully realized, and unfortunately, in this episode, I can't say they are. I wanted to see more of how the world was functioning when everybody thought they were right. We get a brief glimpse of it, but then it feels like the episode just kind of burns the idea and swiftly moves on from it without ever really mining it for its potential. I would have loved to see how the Giggle affects characters we've come to know based on their specific personalities, not just random extras. The closest the episode comes to showing us this is one single moment where Kate is affected by the Toymaker's transmission.
Busy day?
Why do you want to know?
I'm just asking.
It's an invasion of my privacy. In fact, it's an assault on my civic rights.
But it's resolved almost immediately and it doesn't really lead anywhere.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
After the 15-minute mark, it might as well not even be happening because it doesn't come up again that everyone on Earth is currently insane. Then they shoot a satellite and that's it. It's resolved.
And fire.
We did it! Success!
And knowing Doctor Who, I have a feeling that this massive apocalyptic event in human history will never be mentioned again. This plotline had so much potential.
What do we do this time, Doctor? How do we fight the human race?
And it just wasn't really used. But the most infamous example of an idea in this episode that many people felt to be half-baked was the bi-generation. So the Doctor gets shot through the chest by the Toymaker.
Play the third game with the next Doctor.
And it looks like he's about to regenerate.
Here we go again.
Until...
How did that happen?
Bi-generation. I have bi-generated.
Now there are two of them.
So a lot of people really didn't like this, which many more defensive fans of Russell T Davies have chalked up to the notion that people just hate things that are new.
Bi-generation, we discover, is an ancient myth of the Time Lords. Actually, I've had this idea for years. I've always wanted the Doctor to talk to his new version. Imagine how much fans love new things and will really rejoice when this happens.
To which I would strongly disagree. As fandoms go, Doctor Who fans are usually quite open to new ideas. And if you don't believe that, look at literally any other fandom. I, like many others, really like the idea of the new Doctor getting to meet the old one to, in a sense, pass the torch. The problem with how it's presented in this episode is that, why did it happen? What caused this thing that's never happened before to any Time Lord ever to just spontaneously happen? And why wasn't it made explicitly clear to the audience?
What? Bi-generation is supposed to be a myth, but... Look at me.
It kind of feels like the Star Beast all over again, where shit will just happen because the writer says so. And yes, I hear you type in your comments. I know there are a lot of fan theories. Firstly, you could argue that when the Doctor drew that line of salt and wild blue yonder,
I invoked a superstition where the walls are thin and all things are possible.
He summoned myths into reality, and because bi-generation is apparently a myth, that caused him to bi-generate. Alternatively, you could say this happened because the Toymaker was nearby and the laws of physics just go wonky in his presence. Just to be clear, Russell could have intended either of these explanations, but he should have made it clear to the audience, because most people walked away not knowing what happened here. And some people have called this subtle storytelling, but no, it's not. There's a difference between shoving something down your audience's throat and making your story make sense. And it really doesn't help that they state that the 15th Doctor is older than the 14th Doctor.
You're the old man. You're older than me.
He's younger because you came after him.
Which implies that they didn't actually duplicate, but like the 15th Doctor is like from the future, and when the 14th Doctor died at some point, he went back in time to this moment and then became 15. It's just confusing. The idea that the Doctor's physical biology could change because he invoked a superstition is not the kind of thing Doctor Who has trained us to believe, at least not in the past when it was more of a sci-fi, but as we'll come to see, Russell's new era very much so seems to be playing on fantasy logic, or whatever you want to call it. Which again, I'm open to, but the way that the Doctor just takes everything in stride as if nothing abnormal is going on kind of throws everything off.
So good! Yeah, myth, Mel. What do you think?
After an initial moment of shock, he barely even seems surprised that it happened. This is supposed to be an impossible superstition coming into reality. You should be questioning everything right now, Doctor. You little science gremlin.
Magic!
Silence!
Magic!
Silence, Miss Hawthorne.
That's a big part of why this doesn't work. The beat isn't played right. If the Doctor drawing the line of salt really did break the entire universe and set the stage for everything to come in the following season, it shouldn't have been glossed over nearly as much as it was. The show should have put more focus onto the fact that the Doctor is now dealing with a completely different rule set, and we should have seen him struggle to keep up. Then again, I'm not even clear on whether the salt line actually was supposed to be the explanation behind this. I think it's just as likely that the reason this is supposed to have happened is because the Doctor's extremely damaged right now. The specials go out of their way to repeatedly tell us this.
I got a glimpse inside your mind, and it's like you're staggering. Maybe that's why your old face came back.
I like the idea of the Doctor's adventures taking a toll on him, but couldn't we have seen this through his actions more rather than just being told it directly?
You're thin as a pin, love. Been running on fumes.
This is where I would have liked the storytelling to be subtle, not with a key plot point. And plus, the Doctor's been way more damaged than this in the past, and it never broke his regeneration cycle, but I think any way you shake it, at the end of the day, Russell just wrote this in because he thought it would be cool, and he didn't really take the time to, make it make sense. But it's not just the inexplicable nature of the bi-generation that I take issue with, it's what it's actually used for within the confines of the episode. There is so much potential for a climax with not one, but two Doctors working together to take down someone as powerful as the Toymaker. But what we ended up getting was the Doctors challenging the Toymaker to a game of catch.
Name your challenge, Doctor.
You said it!
The ball.
And then they win the game of catch, and that's how they save the day. And it's shockingly anticlimactic.
Not fair.
I'm still confused on how the godlike Toymaker was unable to win a game of catch, but I guess it's been a while since he practiced. Oh, and I noticed while editing this that you can see in a few shots the Doctor already holding the ball before he's supposed to catch it, but you know what? I'll let it slide because I'm merciful. So, pretty much no one likes this ending scene except for people who really like watching Ncuti Gatwa jump around without pants on. So presumably Russell T Davies. Given all the build-up and intrigue surrounding the Toymaker, I think most people assumed that in order to defeat him, the Doctor would have to do something clever, trick him in some way. The last time we saw the Toymaker, the Doctor tricked him by imitating his voice so that some sentient board game pieces would move in such a way as to blow up his realm at the exact moment he dematerialized his TARDIS so that he could escape. It's a weird episode. But even there, the Doctor's solution took more thinking than here. Is there a way this ending could be rewritten to involve the themes that the episode actually sets up before this point? I think so. Let's return to the theme of tribalism that the episode kind of juggles and then drops.
All the anger out there on the street. That's human, that's you. Using your intelligence to be stupid.
I think this would be an excellent point to bring that back. So let's rewind a little bit. Remember the scene where they shot down the satellite and freed humanity from the Giggle? Remove that scene. Make it so the Giggle is still in full effect during this climax, adding more tension. Remember how it was set up earlier in the episode that it's possible to disable the inhibitor bracelets, keeping everyone at unit sane? Well, in my version of the scene, the second the Doctor got the ball into his possession, he would have lifted his sonic and disabled the ZDX bracelet before throwing the ball to one of the soldiers. Yes, in my version of the scene, it wouldn't be the Doctors versus the Toymaker, but rather humanity versus the Toymaker, because the second humanity was in possession of the ball, they were never going to give it up. Because of the Toymaker's own actions, every single person at unit would start going crazy trying to win the game. And the ball would pass from person to person to person, eventually working its way through the entire building and down onto the streets below, and the Toymaker would never get it back again. And remember, the toy maker can't quit in the middle of a game. As long as the game was still going, he'd be stuck on Earth with the doctors unless he forfeited, meaning the Doctor would have weaponized the toy maker's own plans against him to defeat him. And the theme of human tribalism would have actually played into the climax. But within the episode we actually got, all Russell really used the Giggle for was a means to generate extremely unsubtle political commentary.
They are using this to control us. I am anti-Z-Dex.
Why should I care about you?
No change there, then.
That's the game of the 21st century. They shout, and they type, and they cancel.
Scream after scream after scream.
That's right. Your mom was right about those damn phones all along. They've been making you crazy. Via a secret sound being broadcast into everyone's brains since the dawn of television.
La 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 la.
Another tune.
What are the notes?
C-E-G-C, G-E-C.
I found the exact same notes.
That isn't C-E-G-C-G-E-C. It's clearly A-C-F-C-F-E-G. Is Russell tone deaf?
Sack Russell T. Davies.
This isn't even the first time Doctor Who has done this.
Now that one. A perfect fifth.
No, Doctor, that isn't a perfect fifth. It's a perfect fourth. Get writers with better senses of pitch, BBC. This is atypical for Russell, but even the dialogue in this episode can feel at times a bit iffy to me, and the fan service is cranked up to 11. At one point, the 14th and 15th Doctors have an exchange that is literally just lore references.
Put on trial, exiled, key to time, all the devastation of Logopolis. Adric. River Song, Sarah Jane, and Rose. But the Time War, Pandorica, Mavic Chen, the gods of Ragnarok.
Is this dialogue? Can this qualify as dialogue? It sounds more like they've challenged each other to a contest of who can name more Doctor Who trivia.
Bo, the face of Bo!
Oh, and in regards to lore dumps, this episode bedevils its audience with mystery box setups.
There's only one player I didn't dare face. The one who waits.
Who's that?
That's someone else's game.
All of the specials do this, and if I'm being honest, I think the show has become kind of over-reliant on mystery boxes at this point.
Just wait till I tell the boss.
Cryptic. I hate that.
But this episode doesn't just reference past stories or rehash past formulas. It kind of feels like Russell is recycling a lot of material with this one. Something about the Doctor getting shot through the chest by one of his oldest foes and then having a fake-out regeneration that results in him duplicating himself kind of rings a bell. Almost as if I've seen it before.
I'm regenerated.
Oh, also something about one of the Doctor's former companions getting their very own copy of David Tennant to live a quiet life with seems oddly familiar.
I've only got one life. Rose Tyler. I could spend it with you.
I also can't help but feel as if I've already seen an episode in which the bad guy hijacks Earth's satellites and uses them to subliminally mind control everyone on Earth by use of a rhythm that's beamed into all of their heads, without them even knowing it's there.
What's the Archangel network?
I've got Archangel. Everyone's got it.
It's in the phones! There it is. That rhythm is everywhere. Ticking away in the subconscious.
It's not like the old Archangel network.
Same goes for the Master's remains being recovered by an unknown hand with red painted fingernails. Okay, to be fair, I think that last one might be a reference, but either way, it's still following in line with a very common trend. Even the Toymaker's dance sequence couldn't help but remind me of something else Russell has already written. Those examples weren't cherry-picked from across his entire run, they all came from just 2 stories he wrote. It's true that Doctor Who is a humongous show. Inevitably, ideas are going to be reused. I mean, basically every classic Who serial ever was filmed in a quarry, so repetition isn't anything new. That being said, if you're going to rehash an idea you've already done, I would argue it needs some kind of new spin. If you guys recall, I complained about Chibnall copying ideas RTD had already done back in 2020, so the last thing I expected to see upon RTD's return was for him to also rip off old RTD stories. But alas. You know, I've been fairly critical, so let's end with some positives, because there are definitely things to like about this episode. Most of the episode's positives have to do with the Toymaker, if you hadn't already guessed. He is such a fun villain, and whenever he's on screen, it's impossible not to enjoy yourself.
That is the final all of all. Yeah.
The entire sequence when the Doctor and Donna are trapped in his realm is great. It's some of the most experimental and conceptual imagery the show's offered up in years, and like I said, experimental and conceptual is exactly what I think a limitless show such as this should strive to be. So risk-taking episodes like this will always have my respect, even if, as an episode, it's far from perfect. I'm still not sure how I feel about there now being two Doctors sharing the same universe. At least the last one didn't have a TARDIS, was human, and stuck in a parallel universe. Part of me wonders if the only reason he had the Doctor duplicate himself and gave that Doctor a spare TARDIS is because that's something he wanted to do the last time the Doctor duplicated himself, but for whatever reason the scene didn't make it to air.
And that was a big cut, this one, from episode 13. The Doctor giving the second Doctor the chance to grow his own TARDIS. Oh, we argued over this, and part of me still wishes it was in. Julie was right, though. It was just getting in the way of there's so many complicated endings and so many complicated emotions. So I like to imagine this still happened, though. So one day we'll come back and put this one back in.
So, after all these years, he's getting his way and finally giving an extra Doctor an extra TARDIS. Dreams do come true. And the new TARDIS has a ramp.
Wheelchair accessible.
At last, you finally caught up with the 21st century.
Which apparently was inspired by Doctor Who YouTuber theories, which is cool for many reasons, but especially these two. Reason one, I've talked with theories before and now I feel like I'm in the Doctor Who inner circle. And two, this implies that Russell watches Doctor Who YouTubers. Russell, are you watching this right now? In terms of there being two Doctors now, I'm not necessarily against it as long as the idea is actually taken advantage of, and the 14th Doctor is brought back in some meaningful capacity, as opposed to the whole reason behind this being so that the 10th Doctor could get yet another happily ever after. Please tell me. Please tell me this wasn't just for that reason. You know that video you just watched? Well, guess what? It was actually a snippet from a larger video that you can watch here, if you have the time. I mean, I guess it's up to you. I would recommend you watch it, but you know, it's your call. I mean, I don't have time to wait on you anyways. I got birds to feed. But please watch it.